Well, guys, we're at the point of the show. We're bringing in our guest. We've heard about all of this housing stuff, right? Affordable housing, fair housing, Donald Trump not wanting to sign this affordable housing law because he wants to hold it up. Well, not wanting to sign a bill that the House and Senate passed both the House and the Senate passed these bills. But guess what? Donald Trump said, I'm not going to sign it because what I'm going to do is hold it up to oppress people at the polls with the SAVE Act. But with that said, I want to bring in Lisa Rice, the president and CEO of the National Fair Housing Alliance, so she can break all of this down. And Lisa, welcome, 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 Lisa.
Hello, April. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you again and to be on the show with you again.
Yes, yes. Well, this is your first time on the Tea with April. Thank you.
Yes.
And she is a contrarian and a watcher. We definitely sip our tea, dandelion and hibiscus today. But Lisa, we originally scheduled you to talk about the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. That's what Donald Trump has not signed into law that he was supposed to. And we understand the act passed in the U.S. House by 358 to 32 on June 23rd, and it passed the Senate in an 85 to 5 vote in a deeply divided Congress. And this is a rare bipartisan bill, and Donald Trump is holding it up. But then you tell us there's something else that happened Thursday with fair housing and Donald Trump. Please tell us what happened.
Well, April, this is really it's a sad long tale. The administration is trying yet again to withdraw funding for private fair housing civil rights organizations by cutting funding for a really important program. It's called the Fair Housing Initiatives Program. April, this is a program that was established over 30 years ago, believe it or not, by the Reagan administration. It was made permanent by the Bush administration, Bush 1, because it was so successful in providing services to people who were experiencing housing discrimination in communities throughout the country. And so since he's taken office, the Trump administration has tried to zero out funding. In fact, in the president's budget that was released, he's completely zeroed out funding for the program. Congress said, oh no, we want these programs to be funded. We want these fair housing groups to be funded. And Congress reinstated funding, full funding for the program in the budget. Now, this is a bipartisan budget bill that passed, bipartisan support for fair housing. And what the Trump administration did just last week is it changed the grant application process for the Fair Housing Initiatives program to make it almost impossible, April, for fair housing organizations to get funding under the program.
So you say that Reagan and Bush W signed it, but is this for Donald Trump? And I know we can't figure out what's going on in his mind, but is this something that Donald Trump feels is woke or DEI? Is that why he's changing the dynamic of it and walking away from it?
Well, that is part of it. Yes, it's absolutely part of it. But as you well know, April, the administration is being run by people who do not believe in racial equity. They do not believe in civil rights. They, have even said things like the Civil Rights Act was not a great idea. And when Doge came in, when the Trump administration first took office, Doge came in and tried to completely eliminate. In fact, they did. They canceled all of the fair housing grants illegally. They just canceled the grants midstream. And they canceled the grants because the grant contracts contained words like accessibility or racial equity or anti-racism or sexual orientation or gender identity. And so these are all concepts that the Trump administration is opposing, and they don't want to fund any effort to address racial inequality, racism, structural racism. They don't want to fund any of that. And as you know, our housing markets, unfortunately, are replete with systems that are structurally unfair for underserved groups, including communities of color. And so DOGE wiped out all of the funding. We went to court. The court reinstated the funding. And then they tried to.
So wait a minute, say that again. Doge did what?
DOGE went through and targeted all of the fair housing grants that were implemented by fair housing organizations,
Elon Musk.
targeted them to be canceled. And so HUD literally sent out letters to organizations. I believe it was a Friday night after 7 p.m. April. They sent out these letters to all of the fair housing organizations that had been funded saying, we're canceling your grant. So we went to court, and the court reinstated the contracts and said, no, you can't do that. It's illegal. It's a violation of the law. And so then the next thing the administration did was it said, you know what, Congress appropriated the funding, but we're not going to disseminate the funds. We're just going to hold on to the funds. And we're not going to issue the grants. And so we'll just return this money to the general fund, to the general treasury. So we went back to court again and asked a judge to compel the Trump administration to disseminate those funds as Congress dictated. And so they had to do that. They did. And now this time it's another attempt. So I guess they said, look, we can't cancel the grants. We can't not issue the funds. So we will issue the funds, but we're going to change the scope and the terms and conditions of these grant programs. So they're pulling funding from the private fair housing groups that handle 75% of the housing and lending discrimination complaints in the nation. They're pulling funding from those groups, and they're giving funding to organizations who are not fair housing organizations. These are not trained, not skilled on fair housing. And they're giving them to organizations that are promoting the president's, all of those executive orders that are anti-DEI, anti-diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racial equity, anti-gender equity, all of those executive orders. If you'll advance those executive orders, then you get preferential points to receive these grants. And in fact, April, it is so nefarious that if you are a qualified fair housing civil rights enforcement agency with years of experience of providing services to victims of discrimination, and you've received FIP funding in the last round, you are dinged 4 points. They'll penalize you for 4 points.
Wow. So listen, we don't have that much time, and I want to get as much in as I possibly can. What does this do to the 1968 Fair Housing Act? Is this an affront to it? Does it just totally, is it just totally a juxtaposition of what was put in place? And because it sounds like, just like the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, it was bipartisan. And now Donald Trump is pulling the grants away. So is this an affront to what had been put in place with the 1968 Fair Housing Act?
Absolutely. You know, I have a member, April, who is right now providing services to a woman whose child was sexually assaulted. Sexual harassment is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. If your housing provider sexually harasses you in your home, providing services to that family, they're going to lose their funding. I have another member who is providing services to a woman who is a survivor of domestic violence. In fact, we have a number of organizations that are providing these services. In one of the cases, this woman's husband tried to kill her, and they're helping her in her housing to remain safely and securely housed. They're going to lose funding. I mean, so these are organizations that right now are providing assistance and services to veterans who have disabilities and are facing housing challenges, to families with children who are being turned away for housing illegally, for victims of racial discrimination and appraisal bias. These organizations are helping thousands and thousands of people right now as we speak, and they will not receive funding to continue to provide services to these people. And that is a direct dichotomy. It's directly opposed to what this 1968 Fair Housing Act was meant to accomplish.
These organizations that are helping people are too woke, in his opinion, and they service the marginalized community, DEI. And like Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore, says DEI means definitely earned it, instead of what Donald Trump says, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Going back to affordable housing, how many units is America short of for affordable housing, first of all?
We need 5 million units of affordable housing, April. 5
Wow.
million.
And so how bad is it? If you can give me a synopsis of a synopsis.
Oh, it's horrible. Almost 50% of renters in the United States are housing cost burden. What that means is almost 50% of renters in the US are spending more than 30% of their income on housing expenses. About a quarter of homeowners are housing cost burden. So this is a horrible problem. I mean, it's
Stand by for 1 second, Lisa. Guys, put those graphics up because we've got graphics from everything you're saying. Danny, if you can put some of those graphics up, put graphic 1 up, please. And Lisa, can you see? Yes, it says racial home ownership gaps, percentage point differences, 31% Black versus white, 26.8% Hispanic versus white, 19.2% of all races. Talk to me about this. Can you explain further what this graphic shows?
Absolutely. So those are the percentage point gaps. So there is a 31 percentage point gap between white homeowners and Black homeowners. What that means is that the white homeownership rate is 70% higher than the Black homeownership rate. There is a 26 percentage point gap between white homeowners and Latino homeowners. And what that translates to, April, is white homeownership is 56% higher than Hispanic homeownership. And then when you look at all other racial groups that are not white, so these are all other people of color, there's a 19 percentage point gap. That translates to, what that means is that the white homeownership rate is 34% higher than the homeownership rate for those other people of color.
And I can't help but think Bill Clinton, former President Bill Clinton, had the largest number of Black home ownership. Well, the largest number of Black home ownerships came during the Bill Clinton era. And he was also concerned. I'm looking at this, the juxtaposition of today versus yesterday. He had something called Creating More Affordable Housing with Home program. It said the Home Investment Partnership Program provides more than 1 billion with a B a year to create affordable housing for low-income households. HUD provides funds to state and local governments to strengthen public-private partnerships and expand the supply of decent, safe, sanitary, and affordable housing, with primary attention to rental housing for very low income and low income families. Is that concept still in place anywhere?
Yes, it is, but the problem is it's not enough. It's not sufficient. It's nowhere near sufficient. That's why the amount of affordable homes that we have needed year after year after year has grown, right? It's grown exponentially. We're not building enough affordable housing units at fast enough pace to keep up with the need. And so that was what the 21st Century Road to Housing Act was designed to address. So it's important to note, April, that the Road to Housing Act is a supply side bill. Supply means we're going to support the building and development of affordable housing units. Now, the other side of supply is demand.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act really doesn't have that many demand-based provisions in it. What do I mean by that? You can build the affordable housing, but can people access it? And that's the demand side. And so that is some unfinished business that Congress really does need to take up.
So what do you see happening with this affordable housing bill that the president has yet to sign? He's holding it up to oppress people at the polls with the SAVE Act. What do you see happening, or what do you know that's getting ready to happen with it?
So April, this is how dastardly it was. People were literally at the Capitol waiting for the president to come to sign the bill, when he tweeted out or posted out on social media that he wasn't coming and he wasn't signing the bill. So what happened was people worked behind the scenes. Thank God we have this sort of alternate path to seeing bills come to life. And what happens is once the bill is sent to the president for signage, there's a 10-day clock that starts ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Road to Housing Act was sent over to the president's desk on June the 30th. So that clock has started ticking.
Good.
So you count 10 days, excluding Sundays, and as long as the president does not veto the bill, it becomes law. So it sort of silently becomes law, but it's still the law of the land as long as he does not veto it. Now, if he vetoes the bill, then the bill will be sent back to Congress for ratification, but you need 2/3 of the Congress to ratify the bill. And as you stated, with those votes, if those votes stay the same, we'll have the votes for the Congress to override the veto.
If they stay the same. And yeah, if they stay the same. So really fast, we've got people commenting about you in this conversation in the chat. JN says it's impossible to budget when they keep rescinding, and that's the point. Sheila says, good for you for standing up and pushing the legal avenue for the rights of people and housing. Jane says, so Trump can take in billions while these vulnerable people cannot get fair housing.
Wow.
Say it, Jane. And Totally Quirky says, what can we as citizens do to help with this?
Oh, I'm
Thank you
so
for
glad. I'm so glad you asked. So please reach out to your members of Congress and tell your members of Congress that you want private fair housing organizations, the organizations that are in your communities, providing services to you, your family, your friends, that you want those organizations to receive this funding that was intended for them. That is extremely important. And if you go to our website within the next couple of days, we're going to have a call to action on our NAFA website. And that will provide an automated process for the general public to reach out to their members of Congress and raise their voices about this issue.
Lisa, thank you. You know what? Lisa in the Cult Jam. Look, Lisa, Lisa Rice, President and CEO of National Fair Housing Alliance. Thank you so much, because a lot of people don't understand the dynamics and the minutia, getting into the weeds of how important this is and what is actually being impacted. And thank you for bringing up Doge. Thank you for giving us all of the examples, the real painful examples of what's happening to real people who have fallen through the cracks and just need a little help. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, April, for having me. I've enjoyed having tea with you.
Oh, yes. Let's sip one more time. Oh, goodness.